So we said we're going to be talking about two topics, the functions and the arrays. So quick reminder about functions. We said a function is a block of code, a set of lines of code that perform a specific task. We have two types of functions. There is one that returns something, and there's another one that's called void. It does not return anything, it just performs some kind of operations. So we have, for example, like you'd say, I want to create a function that, let's say, return an average, accepts accept three numbers, let's say A, B, and C, and then returns the average. So return, and then you put A plus B plus C, and then you divide by 3. Let's put the return as double, because usually when you have an average, most likely you're going to get an average number. So I'm going to divide by 3.0. Remember, like when you divide integer by integer, you get only integer. So you have to make sure that you divide by 3.0, or you can cast A plus B plus C to double. So this is the function. Nothing will happen if I run the program. Nothing will happen until you call the functions. How do you call the function? In the main method, you're going to mention the name. So I'm going to go like this. I don't need this. So we're going to mention the name. First one, since it is returning, I need to see out so I can see it. And then I'm going to use the name average. And then I'm going to use the arguments. And these arguments should match the parameters I have. I have three parameters. I have to enter three parameters or three values, and they have to be three integers. So if I have less than 3 or more than 3 or different type, then this function is not going to work. So I'm going to put, let's say, 5, 9, and 12, for example. Okay. If I put only 2, the function is not going to work. See, it is underlined. That means it does not match. Yeah, it's like the compiler is saying that we do have a function called average. It returns double, but the problem, the number of parameters are not the same. So we have only 2, and we are expecting 3.
And excuse me, I have a question about this,
Yes.
about the function. So I saw the videos today of the Pearson notes,
Okay.
and how the person did it is that he put in the top double average, and then he put let's say we have in integer a b c, right? He only put integer comma integer comma integer, and then on after that he put again double average and then put
I know
integer
what you're talking
a.
about. Actually, if you give me time, that's what I was trying to do.
Oh, sorry
First,
for that.
because there are, yeah, there are two things. This is the function. Now, I think you are talking about the prototype. We'll talk about this in a minute.
Oh,
So the
sorry.
prototype, like for example here, it works fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think we talked about this last time. I'm not sure if you were here or not.
Yeah, I didn't, I wasn't here since I didn't get an email,
That's
so
right.
sorry for that.
Because we said that there are two situations. If you put the function on top, there's no problem. But what happened if, let me see if I can see the answer here. Yeah, it showed the answer right here.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened if I have this function below the main method? I think that's what you are referring to. So if you put it outside right here, look, it's underlined. That means the computer did not recognize it,
Okay.
because at this point right here, there is no functions. There's no function called average. It's below that. So to
Oh,
avoid that problem, or to deal with this problem, you have to put what we call the prototype. Prototype is just like if you put the header, the function header, only the first line, like for example this, double average, and then inside you're gonna put, okay, how many are we expecting? 3 integers. So you put int. So this is called the prototype. That means it's like telling the computer or telling the compiler that, okay, I am trying to create a functions called average, and I'm gonna give you like the basic information. It's gonna return double, the name is average, it accepts 3 integers. The details will come later. So that's basically what you are doing.
okay.
But this is only if you have the function below the main function, like in this case. So
Okay, yeah,
here,
okay, yeah,
yeah.
perfect. Thank you.
So that's what happened. Another thing, what happens if I don't have? You can assign even what uh, we call them default values or default arguments. Like for example, I can put, for example, here int equals 10. What does it mean? That means if I don't have the third number, like for example, I don't have 12. So I have only two numbers. Okay, the first one is 5, the second one is 9. I don't have the third number, so you can use this number 10 as the default. So it's not going to cause an error. So it's going to use the third number since it's not there. So they're going to use the default value of 10. So it's going to be replaced. The third number will be replaced by 10. So we call them default arguments. Default arguments. I can do it for all of them, or I can do it for some of them. So I can put, for example, here 5. Okay? Or let's say another, or 20. So which means if I don't have the second number, it will be replaced by 20. Again, we call them default arguments. Okay? So sometimes we have this. Okay, let's see another function here about void. Let's say I'm trying to create a function that that takes a string and then returns, or return true, okay, return true if the first and the last character are the same. So I'm going to return true or false. That means it has to be bool. And then I'm going to call it same first last. That's the name. And it accepts string. I'm going to call it str. So this function will return true only if the first one, the first character, so I can use at, or I can use the square brackets, it's the same thing. So if str.add 0 is equal to str.add, how can I refer to the last character? And by the way, don't forget to include, every time you are talking about string, you need to include this package, which is string include, because there are some elements that if you don't include this, it may not work. So always make sure you include that. So how can I refer to the last character? The first one is 0, everybody knows that. But what about the last character? How can I refer to the last one in terms of length? The first index is 0. The last one is?
I guess it will be 1, maybe?
No,
Or
1
no?
is the second one.
Okay.
The last one. Like for example, computer, the string computer, C is index 0. What about R? The last character at computer, it has an index of length -1. So I'm going to put str.length -1. -1, length -1, that means the last character. So if these two characters are the same, I'm going to return true. Otherwise, I'm going to return false. So this function, that's what it does. Return false. So now let me call the method. Of course, we have to use the prototype again because I have it below the main method. So I'm going to put a bool. I'm going to put same first last, and then I'm going to put an example of a string. And I'm sorry, just put string. Just what am I doing? A string, just to type, and then you put semicolon at the end, just like the first one. So now when I call, okay, let me put cout end of line, and then let me call the function, the second one, same first last, and then I'm going to use the string computer as an example. So if I run the program, is C equal to R? No.
No.
So it should say false or 0. Same thing. So now we have 0. Now what about if I put something like race car? Look, R are the same, first and the last one. So it should say 1 or 2. So that's another example of a method, a function. Let me create another one with void this time. So what would we say about void? Void is the one that does not return anything. It may display something, it may make some changes, but it does not return anything. So I can have, for example, void. I can, for example, create one that accepts a number and then display all the factors of that number or divisors. So I'm going to call it factors. So it accepts a number, value, and then it returns. So I'm going to start. How can I find the factors? So you're going to start from 1 all the way to the number. No, it's up to you if you want to include the number itself or not. So I'm going to start from 1 all the way to the number. Now, if you want to include the number, you can. Let me include it, that's fine. But that's a factor as well. And then I'm going to put I plus plus. So if when you divide value by every value of I and the remainder is 0, then it is a factor or divisor. So for example, if you take 6 as an example, so 1, 2, 3 are factors or divisors. Why? Because when you divide 6 by 1, remainder is 0. 6 by 2, no remainder. 6 by 3, no remainder. But 6 by 4, there is a remainder. That's why it should not be included. So here I'm going to display the number I, maybe like a little space if you want to. So again, I'm going to have a problem here when I run the program. Why? Because I need the prototype again. So I'm going to go all the way up and then put remember, the prototype is only when the function is below the main method. If you have it on top, you don't have to do that, even though it's a good habit to do it regardless. So I'm going to put void factors and it accepts an integer. That's how simple. Okay. If you want to put a default argument, you can. And then I'm going to go to the main math function. Let me skip a line first. And then I'm going. So here I'm not going to put cout. Why? Because that's it already has a cout here. So I'm just going to call the name directly, factors. And then you put the number. Let's say I'm going to put 12. So what are the factors of 12? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. So this is the numbers I'm going to get. And sure enough, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and the number itself, which is 12. So that's another example of a function. It's called void. Void, you don't return anything. Now, when I say return, that means you can either save it, because I can save this. Like, for example, this average right here, I can save it. So I can put, for example, here, double, okay? And then I'm going to put like a number, let's say X. And then I can use average. And then let's say 6. And then 8. So what do you think I'm going to get? Remember, I have 3 integers. But since 2 of them are default arguments, so it will be replaced. I have 2, so the third one will be 10. So it's like you are adding 6 and 8 and 10 divided by 3, and then the result, the outcome will be saved. So now if I put cout x, it will show me the average. That means you can save anything that is returned, you can save it. If it returns an integer, you can save it in an integer variable. If in this case it returns double, then it should be saved in a double variable. If it returns string, then you can save it in a string variable, and so on. So here I can put end line. So you can see here that if I run the program, it should show me the number here. So the number I take, oh, let me see here. I need to put system out print line here and line. So let me see the second number here. So if you divide them by 3, what you're gonna get? So I get 8. So 6 plus 8 plus 10 divided by 3, you get 8. Okay, so this is pretty much about the function. All right, so let's get started with the new chapter. Okay, new chapter is about arrays. So just clear this area right here. So what is array? Because every time we introduce a new topic, we have to discuss the significance and also the rationale why what's wrong, what's how does this concept help us in our programming experience. Okay, so we should understand why, because usually when there is a concept, that means it's solving a problem that we have. Okay, so it solves a problem that we have. Let me just delete this part for him. So I'm going to give you an example why we have to use arrays at certain points. So let's say I have a class. Okay, I'm a teacher, I have a class, and I want to keep track of their grade. Okay, I have like, let's say 6, 8, 10, 30, whatever, and then I want to keep track of their grades. So one way is to save. Of course, we have to save it in the variable. Okay, the first student, I'm going to save it in grade 1. Okay, 95, 84. Okay, the second one, you need another variable. So I'm going to save it. He got 90. Okay, the third one, he got, let's say, 72, and so on. So if I have 30 students, that means I need how many variables? 30 variables. That's not practical, and it's almost impossible to keep track of, because you have to deal with 30. First, you have a problem that you may mess up, you may misspell them, and then you may get confused. You can use one instead of the other. So that's why Java, C++, I mean, on all programming languages, they came up with this concept of array. So array basically is just a big container that has different spots. And then you can use only one variable for multiple values. So instead of using this multiple values or multiple variables, so I'm going to need only one. I'm going to call it grades with S. But I have to use this symbol, square brackets, to tell the program that I am using an array, not a normal variable. So I'm going to put the name. I mean, I can put this in the front. I mean, that's okay. So let me put it right here. So here I'm going to put, let's say, 6. So what does 6 mean? That means I have intention to use 6 grades. Or you can put 8 or 30, whatever. Okay? You can either assign them individually, like grades, and then use the square bracket, 0. So 0 is the first one. Okay? So I'm going to put, let's say, 90. And then grades, let's say 1, and then it is 80, and so on. You can either do this, you can do them individually. Why? Because maybe you don't have the grades at the same time, so you are adding them in individually. Or the easy way, if you have all the grades together, you have them available, then you can just list them as one list. So by doing this, you put equal sign and then use the braces, and then you can mention all of them. Let's say 76, 90, 89, and then separate them by comma. So since I have 6, I cannot go beyond 6. Now, if I have less, then the computer will finish them with 0, 0. So if you have 6 spots, you have only 4 grades, so the last 2 will be 0, 0. So here we have, let's say, 84, and then we're going to add 2 more, so 98, and then maybe 100. So that's an array. How can we print them? It's easy. We're going to go for, and by the way, let's say you don't have the number before we print them. You can save it in a variable. You can say I have an int, I'm going to call it num grades. This is the how many grades I have, 6. And then you can use the variable here. That's another way to do this. Num grades. Now, because this number is specific, you can never change it. You have to declare it as constant because you can never change it. An array, if it is declared as 6, you can never change it. Now, what about if I want to add more? Then you have to create a new one, new array. So this length, it has to be fixed. So now I have to print them, to print the values or the grades. So you're going to use the loop. That's faster. So it's better than printing them individually. It's going to take a long time. So I'm going to go from 0 because 0 is the index of the first grade, which is 76. And then I'm going to go all the way to num grade. So num grade is 6, but the last index is 5. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm going to go one by one. So I++, and then I'm going to print them individually using cout. Okay, then I'm going to put grades I. So this means grade 0, grades 1, grades 2, all the way to 5. Maybe like a little space. So, okay. So this will print all the grades, as you can see, horizontally. See, I have all of them. Now, as I said before, if I happen to have only 4 of them, then the computer will print the last 2 as 0. It's like the default values. Can you see? So the last ones are 0. Or I don't have anything. If you print them, I don't even have this. I have 6, but I don't have this. So it's going to print all of them 0, 0, 0. All right. Now, I can go backward too. So let me put cout and line. And then I'm going to copy this to show you that I can go backward just by changing the loop. So I'm going to code copy. And then instead of going from 0 all the way to the end, I'm going to start from num grades, but be careful here, -1, because the number of grades is 6, but the, let me put this one back where it was. So 90 and then 100. 98 or 6. Okay, so the index goes from 0 all the way to 6 minus 1, or length minus 1, or num grades minus 1. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, because when you count them, you start from 1, but when you start the index, you start from 0. That's why you have that difference. So I'm going to go backwards. So I'm going to put here I higher or equal than 0, and I'm going to go minus. So this will print them in the reverse order. So if you have to print them in reverse order for whatever reason, then this is the way to go. And by the way, there is also another way to print the numbers without using what we call the traditional loop. This is called the traditional loop, the one that you use the index. There is another way called enhance loop. Sometimes they call it for each loop, So basically use for, and you need only 3 components. You need the data type of the array, which is int in my case, and then come up with any variable you can think of. I'm going to call it num, and then put colon and put the name of the array, which is grades. So what is this telling me? They're telling me that you go from the beginning all the way to the end. You don't even have to specify the index. Just tell the computer go from the beginning till the end and print every value of num, because num will replace every single grade I have. There's no reference of the I. That means the index. So I'm going to put cout, and then I'm going to put num. So num does not refer to the index. It's not like I. I refers to the index, the location. Num is the grade itself. So if I put here, okay, on space, so this will print the same thing. But be careful here that I have to skip a line. Otherwise, they're going to be all in one line. And line. So now you're going to see it's the same thing like the first one. It's just 2 different ways of printing, of accessing. Look, it's the same thing. If you feel comfortable using this, even though this, the last one, enhanced loop, you cannot use it all the time. There are like a couple of situations, maybe 3 situations in which you cannot use them. I'll talk about this later. and one of them you cannot go backward. So here, to go backward, I can use the traditional loop, but there is no way I can go backward using the enhanced loop. Okay, so it's faster, it's more convenient, but you can't use it all the time. Another situation we cannot use it is if you have to change the values, because the enhanced loop allows you to access every single element in your array, but it does not allow. Let's say I want to change everything to 100. Let's say, okay, this is the end. I just want to give everybody 100 because that's a completion grade. In this case, I have no choice. I mean, I can try. Let me show you. I can try. I'm going to try. Okay, put everything 100. Let's see if it's going to work. So if I want to print it, let me copy this and then print it. So I'm going to put cout end line, and then I want to print it. Cout. Here, there is no cout, so I could just change in the values. So I want to print. So let's see, I tried. So here my intention is to change every single grade to 100, but it's not going to work, and the proof is this. Okay, I did not leave a space here. You can tell that the numbers are still there. See, I did not change them to 100 to show you that the enhanced loop cannot change the values. It can access them. But if I use the other one, the other loop, which is, let me just copy it from here, and then I use it here, it's going to take effect. So if I use here, and then in this case, we have to use the name of the array and then use I. So now, if we run the program, you're going to see that everything is 100 now. So there are three situations. To go backward, you cannot use the enhanced loop. To change the values of your elements, you cannot use the enhanced loop. And the third situation, when you are trying to compare every two consecutive elements, like the first, second, third, then you need the index, because how does the computer know that the first one and second one are together, are adjacent next to each other? By using the index, I plus 1 or I minus 1. There's no reference to the index, so you cannot use it in this. But other than that, most of the time, it works fine. Another thing we can do also with arrays, we can calculate the average, the sum. So I can calculate the, calculate or, return, display the sum and average of my array of the, class grade. So first one, I need to add them up first. So I need a variable sum equals 0, okay? And then I need the loop. I'm going to use this. Now this one, you can use either one. Why? Because I'm not changing, I'm just accessing. So if you want to use this, you can use it, the enhanced loop, or you can use the traditional one. It's up to you. I'm going to put sum plus equal grades I. That means I'm adding every single grade I have in the array. Now, if you want to use the other one, if you want to use the enhanced loop, of course, you have to use, I'm going to put it as a comment, sum plus equal num, assuming that you put 4 int num colon and then grades. And then I'm going to print. So cout. So the sum of the grades is, and then I'm going to put sum in here. Okay. So again, I'm going to skip a line here. So let's run the program and see. See, the sum is 600. Why? Because I changed everything to 100. Oh, so I need here to, I'm just going to put this as a comment, so it will be ignored. So I'm going to put /**, and then right here, because I don't want to change the values to 100. Maybe at the end. Okay. So I'm going to put asterisk, and then, okay, so this comment is not going to take effect. So now let's see what the So it's 535. Now, how can I find the average? Okay, this is the sum. How can I find the average? What do you think?
Divided by the number of grades.
Very good. Divided by the number of grades, because I have the number. Okay, so the average grade is, and then you put average or just sum, divide by num grades. Now again, we have the same problem, which is integer over integer. So I may have to cast it to double to secure that the decimal will not be ignored. Okay, so let me put end line here. So let's see, now we have the average, which is divided by, so it's 89.60, almost 90. Okay. Another question, because actually the most important thing here, you should feel comfortable working with arrays. That means that regardless what the question about asking, about searching, about changing, modifying, you have to know how to use arrays. Now, that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to ask questions and try how we can solve it using arrays. Like for example, let's say I'm looking for, let me change some of the grades. Let me put some of them, failing. So this way we can answer some questions. Let's say this 90, it was 62, for example. Okay. And then this one right here, I'm gonna put 69, so we can bump him up. Okay, so here I'm looking for either passing or failing. I'm looking, let's say, display the passing grade, or just the number. Let's say the number of passing grade. You don't want to, okay, number of passing grade, how many there are, or how many fail. Let's say failing, because you want to do something about that. You want to see like what we're going to do with them, maybe give them tutorials, whatever. So here I need a variable, because we're going to save it. You're going to save it somewhere. And then I'm going to use, let's use, sometimes I'm going to use the traditional loop, sometimes enhanced loop. So this way you feel comfortable using both. So I'm going to put here, I'm not changing, so I can use the enhanced loop. I'm just going to access them. So you put int num and then grades. By the way, this is num is just a variable. You can call it anything, x, y, whatever. And then I'm going to put f num, which is the grade, every single grade. If it's less than 70, then you increment the variable by 1. And then you display out, okay, the number of failing grade is, and then you're gonna put counts. Okay, so let me put it at the end of each one of them. Okay, let's run the program and see how many failing grade. You can tell from the array. And remember, like when you have a small array, you can, it's not a big deal. But what about if you have a huge array that has like millions or billions? And then if we have time, maybe either at the end of this class or maybe next class, we'll talk about the algorithm efficiency, and we're going to start using huge numbers to check if the program is efficient or not, because it's not enough to make a program that works. You have to make a program that takes or consumes less resources. Okay, so maybe later on. Okay, so that's the number of grade. You can tell it's 2. Now, what about if I'm looking for the highest grade? Okay, find and display the highest grade. So the first thing we need to know the algorithm. How does the computer, goes? What are the steps that the computer has to go through to find the highest grade? So the first thing is we need a variable where you can hold the highest values. Excuse me. So I need to save it. I'm going to put int. I'm going to call it highest, because I need to save it somehow. Now, what value? I have to start with a value. Okay, when you are looking for the highest, you have to start from the lowest possible. Okay, and then you're going to start every time you find a higher number, you save it in highest. Now, since the grades are all positive, I can't think of negative grade. So it's okay, I can start from 0. But not always it's safe to start from 0. Why? Because if you are dealing with negative numbers, like temperatures in Canada in the winter time, so 0 is not safest to start from because that's not the lowest one. So in this case, you need to start with the lowest. This is the lowest number. Let me see if it's in there or not. Or you can, or what we can do, probably the easy way, is assume that the first one, that's easy. That means I'm gonna assume that the first grade is the highest. I have to start from somewhere. Because if I don't assign a value, then how am I gonna compare every single grade to the highest? If you don't have a value, you can't compare them, you're gonna get an error. So I have two choices, either start from the first one or say 0 if you are confident that all the elements are positive. So let's start from 0 just for this time. And then I'm gonna start. I'm gonna put the code first and then I'm gonna explain it. And by the way, you can use both. I mean, the traditional or the, so I'm gonna stay here. I'm gonna use the traditional. So I'm gonna use I equals 0. Let me see if I still have it saved. Hopefully it is. Oh, but I have it backward. That's okay. So I'm going to go 0, and then I less, then num grade, and then I plus plus. So I'm going to put the code, and then I'm going to explain the algorithm so it will make sense to you. I'm going to put if grades I. When I say grades I, that means I mean every single one of them. Grades 0, 1, 2, 3, every single. If it is higher than highest, that means if I find a higher number than 0, which is the first one, then I need to change the value of highest, and I'm going to assign it the number that I just found. I'm going to give you an example about this. Okay, let me explain this. So I'm going to use, let's say, numbers here. So I'm going to say, for example, let's say I have 72. I'm just going to use this example, 72, and then 85, and then I'm going to use 70, and then 90, and then 100. And then I'm going to guide you through the process. So we said that the highest is 0, right? We started from 0, or the first grade, which is 72. So here we're talking about I equals 0. That means grades 0, which is 72, is it higher than highest, which is 0? Yes, it's higher. So what am I supposed to do with H? It's not 0 anymore. H is equal to that number that I just found to be bigger than 0, which is 72. So that's what I did. So H is not 0 anymore. I'm going to update the value of H, 72. So that's the first step when I equals 0. Now, when I equals 1, if grades 1, which is what? 85. So when 85 is higher than what? 85, right here. 85 higher than the value of highest. Highest is not 0 anymore. It's 75, 72, right? That's still true. Higher than, so H will be 85. So now I have to update H. It's not 72 anymore. It's 85. And then you keep going like that all the way to the end. Now for the next number, which is grades 2, nothing will happen because it's not higher than 70. So nothing will happen. I didn't put else. So we're just going to move on to the next one. 90 is higher than 85. So highest will be 90. And then move on to 100. 100 is higher than 90. So highest will be 100. So that's how the computer will go through this process until, so as you can see, the variable highest will be updated many times until you get the highest possible. And then I can display it. So I'm going to put the highest grade is highest. Okay, so if I run the program, it should be 100. But many times, the value of highest changed until we got to 100. So it's many times. Okay, for the lowest, the same thing, right? So always start with let's say the first one, I cannot start from 0 because I'm going down. I'm looking for the lowest. I cannot start from 0. So in this case, I'm gonna assume that the first one is grades 0 is the lowest, and then you're gonna do the same thing, just change the symbol to less than. Okay, everybody get this? So this is how we work with arrays, finding the highest. Okay, and the same thing, let me create another one. This is integer. What about another one? This says string, so I can create string, an array of type string, so I can call it names, for example. And then I'm going to use the square brackets, and then see I have the same thing, which is 6 names. Okay, so I have names 6, and then I can give the names, or I can add individually, or give the list. So I can put the list here, and then say Joe. Okay, Bob, just going to choose like small names, and then John, and then Steve, and then Maria, and then Jack. So 2, 4, 6. Okay. So now I have another array of type string. As you can see, let's assume that these are students who got this grade. We call them parallel arrays. Why? Because they match. So 2, 4, 6. So when I say Joe, so that means when I say parallel arrays, that means Joe, who is at index 0, has the grade of 69, and so on. So they match, like the student at index 4 has the grade that is at index 4 as well. Let's say one more thing before I talk about string also. Let's say I want to change that 69. Let's say the student is nice enough. So student, which is Joe, he came to the teacher, Mr. E or somebody else, and said, okay, Mr. E, I got 69. I really, really need to pass this class, right? Because give me extra credits, assignments and anything. Okay, I'll give him extra credits. And okay, if you do this one, I'm going to bump him to 70. How can he do that? And then maybe like more than one student is in the same situation. So to be fair, I give them all people who got 69, I give them extra credits. Okay, if you do this by Monday, by Tuesday, whatever, so I'm going to bump your grade up to 70. So what is the code that's going to do this? So I'm going to do this, for example, here. And I'm going to use the loop. So I can put, for example, right here, let me copy it. Now, as you can see right here, I cannot use that. That's an example of that I cannot use the for each loop. Why? Because I'm changing the value from 69 to 70. I have no choice but to use this. So I'm going to use this loop, and then I'm going to say, okay, go through the entire array, entire classroom. If you find any grade of 69, if grades I is 69, go ahead and change it to 7. So I'm changing here, so I have no choice but to use the traditional loop. So I'm going to put grades I equals to 70. When you put equal, that means you are assigning value. Look at the difference between double equal sign and then one equal sign. When you are using double equal sign, you are testing. That means you are expecting either true or false. But when you put one equal sign, you are just assigning a value to a variable. So now when I print, let me print the grades again and see if that change, if 69 changed to 70 or not. So let me use this. I'm going to copy and then go down and then print it. I just want to make sure that it did change to 70. There we go, sure enough. So now Joe is happy, right? He's passing the class, he got 70. Okay, that's cool. Okay, now since we're talking about parallel arrays, that means two arrays with the same length and they match. Let's say my question is not to find the highest grade. I already know it's 100. I want to know who is the person, what's the name of the student who got the highest grade. What do you think I should do in this case? Okay, I have the grades. I know one of the students got 100, but I'm not interested in the grade. what kind of information I'm going to get if I know the highest grade is 100. Okay, maybe it's a good information, but I'm really interested in that person. Maybe I want to give him, a praise, or give him, some kind of, privilege, or reward him for whatever. So how do I know? How do I find the name of the person who got the highest grade? Does anybody have any idea how to do that? And by the way, since I'm already looking for the highest grade, I can take advantage of this code and then find the person. Does anybody have any idea how to do this? Or at least, at least some kind of idea. Remember, they are parallel. They match. The first student has the grade in the other the array. So how can I do that?
So if we got the I from the if statement, that I should be the same one as the name, right?
Very good, excellent. Because if they share the same index, so I can just save it. Now I cannot use it outside. That's a local variable. So I need another variable, and then I need to save it. So I'm gonna put, let's say, index. I'm just gonna declare it, and then right here, and make sure you use the braces. Why? So you can keep the two lines together. Otherwise, the second line will not be part of the F. We talked about this. So here I need to save that I. So now it is saved. Okay, now I'm gonna go right here where I have the names, and then I'm gonna say, okay, see out the students with the highest grade is, so I can put the, what do you think I should do? What should I put here?
Index.
Just index? Because index is just the location. I want the name of the person.
Oh, index equals to
How can
name
I find?
Oh no, wait, name in brackets
Good
index.
job. So you have to name the name of the array first, and then you put square. If you don't use square brackets, you are not finding anything. You don't have access to anything. So we have to put index in here. That means I save the location, and then I'm gonna print what is the name of the person in that location. So it should tell me the last one, which happens to be Jack. Jack is the last one. So since the index is the same, then that's it. So we call them parallel arrays because they have the same length and they match.